There's a quiet, often unspoken truth that many older adults carry with them, tucked away beneath layers of modesty, shame, societal conditioning, or simply the passage of time. The belief that masturbation is something meant for youth, a temporary phase of curiosity or pleasure that fades with age, and that as we grow older, especially past 60, we are expected to close that chapter of physical self-love in favor of more age-appropriate pursuits. But what if that belief is not only false, it's harmful? What if stopping masturbation in old age is not a graceful letting go of youthful habits, but rather a subtle form of neglecting your body's ongoing needs, your emotional resilience, and your hormonal health? Because the truth, backed not only by experience but increasingly by science, is that masturbation remains a profoundly vital practice for physical, mental, and emotional well-being well into your 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond. And stopping altogether may actually contribute to the very issues you're hoping to avoid, such as low libido, emotional flatness, sleep disturbances, increased stress, and even a diminished sense of personal identity. You see, the body never loses its capacity for pleasure. It may shift, soften, require more patience or intention, but it never forgets the language of touch, the rhythm of breath, the aliveness that surges when attention and care are directed inward. And the act of masturbation is not merely about sexual gratification. It is an intimate dialogue with the self, a physical meditation, a reminder that you are still here, still capable of feeling deeply, still entitled to comfort, release, connection, and joy within your own skin. For men, continuing to masturbate after 60 supports healthy blood flow, protects against prostate issues, reduces the risk of erectile dysfunction, and helps regulate hormones like testosterone, which plays a vital role in energy, mood, and sexual vitality. And for women, masturbation after menopause promotes vaginal elasticity, lubrication, and circulation, helping to ease dryness, pain, and discomfort that can otherwise become a silent source of shame or disconnection. But beyond the purely physiological benefits, there is something deeper, something more sacred, about refusing to abandon this intimate connection with your body simply because a birthday told you that you were supposed to. Because your relationship with your own body is the most lifelong relationship you'll ever have. It predates every partner you've known, outlasts every external role you've played, and remains with you in every moment of solitude, every night of silence, and every morning you wake up still breathing. And yet, so many elders speak of a quiet grief, a dullness they can't name, a sense that something vital has slipped away, not always because of illness or age, but because they've internalized the message that self-touch, desire, and erotic energy no longer belong to them. But this is a lie. Your body, even with its wrinkles, scars, slower response times, and tender joints, still holds erotic intelligence. It still responds to your fingers, your breath, your attention. It still holds the potential to relax you after a stressful day, to lift your mood when loneliness creeps in, to offer comfort on sleepless nights, and to reignite a sense of agency in a world that often makes aging feel like a loss of control. And that's why doctors, therapists, and gerontologists who truly understand the aging body and mind now emphasize not just the permission to masturbate in old age, but the importance of doing so. Regular, gentle self-pleasure can release endorphins and oxytocin, lowering cortisol levels and reducing symptoms of anxiety and depression. It can improve sleep, support heart health, lower blood pressure, and even bolster immune function. In short, what once may have been dismissed as a frivolous act of youth is, in fact, a potent tool of self-care, no less valid or necessary than a balanced diet, daily movement, or medication compliance. And unlike so many other routines in elder care, masturbation doesn't require anyone else. It is entirely yours, free, private, on your own schedule, shaped by your own comfort and evolving preferences. Whether it's a slow, quiet exploration under soft blankets or a more regular practice integrated into your wellness routine, it is deeply yours. And perhaps even more importantly, it is a practice of remembering who you are beneath all the labels of aging, widowhood, retirement, caregiving, and invisibility. It is a form of reclaiming pleasure not as a performance, but as a right. And in doing so, you may discover that your desires are not gone. They were simply waiting for permission to return. So no, masturbation is not a relic of youth. It is a bridge to yourself. It is a mirror that reminds you that your capacity to feel, to enjoy, to touch and be touched, even by your own hand, is not something you ever outgrow. And for many elders, especially those living alone or outside of traditional relationship structures, it becomes not just a practice of pleasure, but a practice of grounding, of soothing, of reminding the nervous system that you are safe, alive, and worthy of feeling good. And once you begin to embrace that, not as an indulgence, but as a vital thread in the fabric of healthy aging, you open the door to a more vibrant, resilient, emotionally connected life, one where you are not merely surviving the years ahead, but savoring them in ways that make your days warmer, your nights more restful, and your spirit more fully anchored in the beautiful, sensual truth of your still living body. And as you begin to integrate this truth into your life, that masturbation in older age is not only safe but essential, you might notice something subtle yet powerful begin to shift, not just in your body, but in your mood, your thoughts, your relationship with yourself, and how you carry yourself through the world. Because what begins as a private act of self-pleasure often becomes a deeper act of emotional recalibration and self-reclamation. This shift often happens without fanfare, without loud celebration, but it unfolds steadily like a quiet sunrise after years of fog. You may find that on days when you take the time to nurture your body with touch, your mind feels calmer, your smile comes more easily, and your sense of being connected, not just to others but to your own experience, grows stronger and more rooted. Because for far too long, older adults have been taught to feel embarrassment, shame, or even guilt over their continued capacity for pleasure, especially when that pleasure is self-initiated. But when you remove those outdated beliefs, when you strip away the societal conditioning that suggests your sensuality is something to be boxed up and forgotten after retirement or menopause, you realize that this capacity to give yourself pleasure has always been a birthright. And now, more than ever, it's a vital tool in keeping your health and spirit aligned. You're not doing this to chase some youthful version of yourself, but to honor who you are now in all your accumulated wisdom, tenderness, and grace. This act becomes a reminder that you still deserve to feel good, still deserve to inhabit your body with care, and still deserve to access the calming, healing power of sexual energy. And this energy isn't wild or chaotic as it may have been in your youth. It's grounded, deliberate, and in tune with your deeper rhythms. You don't need external validation anymore. You don't need to perform. You simply need to feel. And in feeling, you awaken parts of yourself that may have gone quiet for years, parts that remind you that you're still creative, still curious, still worthy of joy. Regular self-touch can also become a tool for physical awareness, helping you tune in to your body's subtle cues and needs. You become more aware of tension held in your hips or lower back. You learn which positions or rhythms bring comfort rather than strain, and you develop a greater trust in your body's ability to tell you what it needs, something that becomes increasingly important as we age. This embodied awareness can reduce the risk of injury, help manage chronic conditions, and improve balance and posture. Not because masturbation is a cure-all, but because it brings you into more frequent and intentional contact with your physical self, and that contact builds not only confidence, but healing. For those who have experienced trauma, grief, or prolonged periods of isolation, especially after the death of a partner or a painful divorce, masturbation can be a gentle re-entry point into intimacy, not necessarily as a replacement for romantic touch, but as a bridge between loss and renewal. There is no timeline for healing from such losses, but there is deep empowerment in knowing that you don't have to wait for another person to begin the process of coming home to your body again. Even just placing your hand on your heart, or allowing your fingers to explore your skin with curiosity rather than criticism, can become the beginning of a new chapter, one that says, I'm still here. I still matter. I still want to feel alive. And when these quiet rituals are repeated with kindness, they begin to soften the hard places within you, the places where years of judgment or silence may have taken root. They become your medicine. They become your affirmation. And you may even begin to look forward to those moments alone, not as something to hide, but as something sacred, something necessary, something beautiful. For many older women, especially those who felt erased or unseen since menopause, this practice becomes a reclamation of agency and pleasure in a culture that rarely shows mature feminine bodies in states of desire or joy. And for older men, it becomes an antidote to the toxic messages that associate manhood solely with performance or conquest. In solo intimacy, there is no one to impress, no expectations to meet, no scripts to follow. There is only you and the sacred task of listening to your own desires. And in doing so, you may discover new forms of pleasure, slower forms, more rhythmic, more sensory, more emotional, more holistic. You may find that what used to feel like a race now feels like a dance, that what once felt like a release now feels like a return. And this is where the real healing lies. Because for so long, the sexual narrative has been written with youth at its center and aging as its decline. But that story is being rewritten by you, by others who are stepping into this stage of life with courage and openness, and by doctors and researchers who now understand the profound connection between regular sexual engagement. Yes, even solo and mental, emotional, and physical well-being in older adults. Masturbation is not the end of sexuality. It is a thriving, evolving, deeply valid part of it. And as more elders embrace this truth, not only does their personal vitality improve, but the cultural conversation around aging and intimacy begins to shift as well. You become part of a silent revolution, one where pleasure is reclaimed, shame is dismantled, and older bodies are celebrated not for what they used to do, but for what they still can feel. And as you deepen this understanding and settle into the truth that your body still deserves care, attention, and delight even after 60, 70, or 80, it becomes clear that the importance of masturbation at this stage of life isn't only about physical stimulation or fleeting satisfaction. It is about tending to the long-neglected garden of self-intimacy and restoring the natural rhythms of your nervous system, your hormones, and your sense of aliveness, which often get dampened by years of societal silence, physical aches, or the growing invisibility that comes with aging. Because the very act of touching yourself, not from a place of urgency or necessity, but from a place of curiosity, gentleness, and presence, sends a message to every cell in your body that you are still worthy of feeling good, still worthy of giving and receiving pleasure, even if it's with your own hands, on your own terms, in your own time. There is a healing power in learning to meet your needs without waiting for someone else to arrive or grant you permission to feel alive again. And when you practice this consistently, your emotional landscape begins to shift, not in loud, dramatic ways, but in subtle currents that flow into your confidence, your posture, your mood, your relationships, and even your sleep. Because masturbation, when approached with presence and care, has a direct effect on the parasympathetic nervous system, helping to regulate cortisol and adrenaline levels, easing the body out of stress responses, lowering blood pressure, and inviting a sense of physical and emotional calm that helps quiet the chatter of an anxious mind. And in older adults, especially those dealing with loneliness, grief, chronic health issues, or disrupted sleep, this calming effect can be incredibly therapeutic. You may not have known that one of the most natural, drug-free sleep aids available to you is your own body's capacity for orgasm, or even just arousal without climax. Because the hormonal release that follows, particularly oxytocin, serotonin, and prolactin, acts as a neurochemical lullaby, guiding you gently into deeper rest, more vivid dreams, and fewer interruptions in the night. For men, regular masturbation helps preserve erectile function by encouraging healthy blood flow and preventing tissue atrophy, especially in the absence of regular partnered sex. And even a few minutes of self-pleasure a few times a week can reduce the risk of painful conditions like prostate congestion or enlargement. For women, especially postmenopausal women, self-stimulation increases circulation to the pelvic region, helping to maintain the elasticity and lubrication of vaginal tissues, which often dry and thin with time when not engaged, potentially leading to discomfort or even urinary issues. But beyond these physical benefits lies something equally vital: the emotional and psychological restoration that occurs when you reclaim your own body as a place of safety, nourishment, and joy. There are seniors who have gone years, even decades, without touching themselves, not because they lack desire, but because they were told, explicitly or silently, that aging bodies are not allowed to be sexual, that aging women should be modest, and aging men should simply accept decline. That desire becomes dirty when the skin sags or the hair goes gray. But this is not truth, it's conditioning. And you have the power to unlearn it. Because your body, even now, is a sacred vessel of sensation and memory, a living archive of love, heartbreak, adventure, loss, laughter, and longing. To touch it with love is not only healing, it is revolutionary. And as you explore this, you may find that you don't just want to feel something, you want to feel connected. To yourself, yes, but also to life. You may feel more motivated to go for a walk, to take care of your nutrition, to move your hips or stretch in the morning. You may feel less irritable, more creative, more centered. You may notice that a sense of dullness that once seemed permanent begins to lift. Why? Because arousal is not just sexual, it's vitality. When you give your body permission to experience arousal, you reawaken your interest in life, your appetite for beauty, your sensitivity to touch, music, taste, even your desire to laugh again, to be around people, or to create something with your hands. And this carries over into your relationships. When you're connected to yourself physically, you tend to speak with more warmth. You engage with others with more openness. You carry less resentment, and you radiate a subtle energy that others can feel. People begin to notice you differently, not just because of what you say, but because of how you inhabit your body. This is particularly powerful for those who feel invisible in their aging. Those who have shrunk under the weight of a world that celebrates youth and dismisses elder sensuality. When you reconnect with your own sensual experience, you start to glow from within, and that glow has nothing to do with sexual conquest or external validation. It comes from knowing that you belong fully to yourself. Masturbation, then, is not just a physical act, it is an affirmation of life. A way of saying, I still choose to be here. I still choose to feel. I still choose to care for myself in ways no one else can. And perhaps one of the most beautiful truths is that it's never too late to begin again. Even if it's been years, even if you're unsure, even if you face trauma, rejection, or discomfort, you could begin again today with a slow breath, with a hand resting gently on your belly, with curiosity instead of pressure, with kindness instead of shame, and with the understanding that this body, with its history and its wisdom, is not a problem to fix or a machine that's broken. It is a sacred place that deserves your attention. And in that attention, you may rediscover parts of yourself that you thought were gone forever. And as you carry this deeper awareness forward, it becomes clear that choosing to maintain your self-pleasure practice in older age is not about clinging to youth or denying the natural progression of life, but about embodying your full humanity with dignity, grace, and vitality. Because when you make space for your own pleasure, you're declaring that your body is still a source of joy, not just function. That your mind still craves connection, not just routine, and that your heart still beats with longing for something more than simply passing the time. It beats with the enduring rhythm of a life still being lived, still being shaped, still being loved, even if the love comes from within. And this truth matters more than ever now, because for so long, the conversation around aging has focused on decline, deterioration, and disengagement, but your body holds a different story, one of persistence, adaptation, and quiet strength. And masturbation becomes one of the ways you listen to that story with reverence rather than avoidance. This is not about selfishness or vanity. It is about a deeper kind of wellness, one that respects your wholeness, that recognizes how intertwined your physical and emotional health are, that celebrates the capacity of touch to restore not just sensation, but a sense of purpose, agency, and even spiritual connection to yourself. And what often surprises people once they begin honoring this connection again is how much more alive they feel across every aspect of their lives, not just in the bedroom, but in the kitchen while cooking something nourishing, in the garden while planting something new, in a conversation with a friend where you find yourself laughing with real abandon again, in the way you walk down the street with a touch more ease, more upright, more aware of the world around you. Because something begins to unlock when you stop withholding pleasure from yourself and start allowing it to become part of your wellness routine. Not as an indulgence, but as a necessity. That glow you feel after you take care of your needs, that calm that follows a self-guided release, that deeper sleep, that lessening of tension in your lower back, your hips, your shoulders, all of it matters. All of it contributes to a more vibrant life. And there's something powerful in knowing that this form of care costs nothing, requires no one else's permission, and can be shaped entirely to your preferences, whether that's through gentle exploration, the use of oils or aids to enhance comfort, or simply creating a private ritual that feels honoring of your body and your spirit. You may even begin to reclaim spaces in your life that once felt cold or indifferent. A bedroom that now feels like a sanctuary, a bath that becomes a prelude to intimacy with yourself, a mirror that no longer reflects criticism but compassion. And as this practice becomes more regular, you may also begin to notice shifts in how you view aging itself. Not as an ending, but as a rich, layered continuation of the sensual life, one that allows for deeper connection, greater emotional maturity, and more holistic pleasure. You become less afraid of being alone and more aware of how full your company already is. You may still desire partnership, still long for the warmth of another. And that's beautiful too, but you no longer see solitude as a sentence. It becomes a space of sacred return, where you learn to meet your own needs first, and from that fullness, any love you share with another becomes more generous, more grounded, more free of neediness, and more rooted in authenticity. You discover that intimacy doesn't begin in someone else's arms. It begins in the willingness to hold yourself with tenderness, to stroke your own skin with patience, to breathe into your own body with love. And that willingness builds over time, day by day, touch by touch, moment by moment, until one day you realize that you don't just feel more pleasure. You feel more peace, more energy, more clarity, more connection to life. This is what many doctors mean when they say sexual health is part of overall health. Because it's not just about function or anatomy. It's about the full spectrum of aliveness that continues to pulse within you no matter your age, no matter your relationship status, no matter your past. And it's never too late to begin again. It's never too late to put your hand over your heart and say, I'm allowed to feel this. To pause in front of the mirror and say, I still belong to this body. To close your eyes and say, I trust this desire is sacred, not shameful. Because when you honor your body's longing for pleasure, for connection, for soft moments of self-communion, you become more whole, not less, more resilient, not less, and more present in the rich now of your life rather than stuck in the myths of what was or fearful of what's to come. You stand in the truth that your age is not a barrier, but a portal into deeper authenticity. That every wrinkle is not a closing, but a line etched by a story that's still unfolding. That your touch is not obsolete, but timeless. And if you carry anything forward from this reflection, let it be this. Your pleasure is not behind you. It is still here, still waiting, still holy, still healing. You're not too old to feel good. You're not too late to come home to yourself. And you are never past the point of deserving intimacy. Not just with another, but with your own breath, your own heartbeat, your own living, worthy, beautiful self.